You're listening to Errol Parker and Clancy Overall, editors of the Batuta Advocate, on Desert Rock FM. Welcome back to the Batuta Advocate radio show, recording live out of the Old City District in the Budgy Smuggler Studios, downtown Batuta in the beautiful Diamantina Shire. You know, in isolation, as listeners, we've had a few interesting guests because there's a lot more people with a bit of spare time on their hands to talk to us. We've had Sir Bob Geldof, Malcolm Turnbull, a whole range of different people that have, you wouldn't usually be free to talk. And today's guest is one of them as well, with a career in music spanning over 50 years and 26 golden guitars, I believe. I hope I got that number right.
They argued whether it was 26 or 27. I think I can count 26 anyway.
Yeah, you don't want to get that one wrong. But thank you for joining us today, John Williamson.
It's a pleasure, Clancy and Errol.
How have you been in isolation, mate?
I've been up in southeast Queensland. I've got a block of land up there, and we'd only just gone upstairs, so it was a perfect time for us to move in and, clean up after the builders have left and all the rest of it.
It is. It's a good spot down there in Australia's Tuscany. Down there in that southeast corner where they only worry about themselves.
That's it.
Not the rest of Queensland.
That's all we've been doing lately, is worrying about ourselves. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, with a guitar in hand, I imagine it's probably a bit easier to sit at home. I noticed that Troy Casadale, he was saying that it's a lot easier, as a musician to be stuck in isolation because that's mostly how you spend your lifetime, in the back of a truck or in the back of a bus or in a hotel room. You used to that?
Yeah, I think it's great. I've been learning how to retire, which I've been thinking about, because we've postponed all our sold-out gigs to next year, so I was going to go quiet next year, but it looks like I'm doing it this year, and we'll get back into it next year.
It's a good country to be in, I guess, in the scheme of things as a musician, because it looks like there'll be live music in Australia well before there is anywhere else in the world. So, yes, basically you just put that one on hold, postpone it, bump it to 2021.
Yeah, they haven't cancelled the Denny Ute muster yet, but it may. I don't know, but it still saying it's going to go on.
That'll be the last.
Maybe everyone will have to sit in their utes, or in the back of the ute, out in the paddock. That'll work. That'd be fun.
You can still do donuts in isolation. That's all right.
No, I've enjoyed being isolated because I've been looking forward to getting up into Springbrook, up there where the big shed is. So it's I've really enjoyed it. We're now able to see our grandkids, so we're not suffering too badly.
So basically, when we look at your career, John, you've almost done an album a year.
Yeah, those are
There's some compilations. There's a bit of a cheat there. We put out a few compilations and best ofs and all the rest of it. And we're doing it again now. This box set.
Yeah. JW 50.
Yeah.
So
there's 25 mini discs, 2 songs on each disc, and a painting of mine or a drawing on each cover. So, but yeah, I think I'm in the 20s when it comes to original albums, early 20s something, of brand new studio albums. But there's a couple of live albums, like there's a Sydney Symphony one that I did. So that all adds up.
So can you take us back then, if this spans 20 years, can you take us back to 1970? What was John Williamson like back then?
I don't think I've changed that much, Errol.
Yeah.
I still got a brother on the land, so I go out there and sit down on the chair and worry with him about the barley not going, the barley prices coming down because of China or whatever.
Getting too much rain.
But that's it. I'm not as shy as I used to be back then, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You learn you can't be shy in this business. I mean, talk to you folks, I wouldn't do it if I was shy.
Yeah, no, you're on the front foot already. Last year, Paul Kelly released an album, and we were talking to him around the same time. And Paul Kelly has kind of got a way of I guess, slinking through crowds and avoiding being bailed up by the punters in a way that someone like Jimmy Barnes might not be able to do, where you get every single bloke that's ever listened to your music wants to say g'day and wants you to behave
in every airport lounge.
in every airport lounge and in every servo, and they want to. They have an idea of what you are and how you're going to behave and how you're going to act. How do you deal with the punters?
I'm always quite flattered when someone comes up and says they're my greatest fan or whatever they want to say, or they want a photo. I don't mind that as long as it's not too much. But I think it's an attitude. If you don't want to be noticed, you don't get noticed. You don't look people in the eye, and I think that's the way you remain normal. I think there's be nothing worse. I've often been tempted to write a song, Who Wants to Be Jesus Christ or John Lennon or Elvis Presley, because when you get that famous, it'll end up killing you.
Yeah.
The modern footballer would actually struggle with that because they've all covered in tattoos and they've got wild haircuts nowadays. But,
and they're huge too.
I ran into one of the Burgess brothers this morning. Yeah. You can't miss them.
John, I love your music. When I was back in Huddersfield, I loved it.
Yeah, he knew who I was. That's about all he said. Jordan. You do a better one than me, mate.
Northern England. Can you tell us the moment when you decided you were going to make that move into music? I mean, as we said, 50 years ago now, 50 albums ago, 20 original albums ago. What was the decision, and was it a big risk at the time, or were you just a young bloke where you could have done anything at that point?
Well, I was one of 5 boys, so I was on the farm first, and I actually had a farm with my brother. There was a 4,000 acre property, so I had a future there if I wanted it. I went to boarding school for a few years in Melbourne, and that's where I got into folk music. But it wasn't until I went up to Moree, north of Moree, Cropper Creek.
Yeah,
I was in amongst kangaroos and emus, and I came up with this song, Old Man Emu, and I was just performing in a little coffee lounge in Moree, just for fun. In fact, I got a free meal, is about all I got out of it. and I wrote this song, Old Man Emu, which was just a novelty thing. In those days, there was only novelty Aussie songs that got any airplay. You couldn't be serious.
Yeah.
You had to put on an American accent and do all that stuff if you wanted to be serious. When I sang it at the pub Imperial Hotel in Moree, I had to sing it 3 times. It's never happened to me since.
All right.
I had to sing the song 3 times. I thought I might have a hit here.
Yeah, right.
So I went down to Melbourne, and I had a connection with Channel 9 because my dad's cousin was the musical director there. So I got on New Faces straight away. And next minute I got a contract in front of me with a recording of Old Man Emu that went #1 for 5 weeks. So I'd actually went back to the farm when I first heard it on radio. After that, I decided to give the career a bit of a go. But I remember Dad's cousin, Brian Rankin, told me, you won't last in this business long. You'll be a one-hit screamer, and I was a one-hit screamer for a while. But I worked up my career and eventually started writing, some serious songs. And 16 years later, I came up with Mallee Boy album, and that's still my biggest album.
It would have been a hell of a time to give up the farming because, back in the day, in the 70s, it was quite an exceptionally wet time. I mean, so you'd be seeing, these big crops up the armpits, and then it's like, no, I'm going to get into music.
Mate, we had some bad years as well. We had to sell all our sheep for skin value at one stage.
Yeah.
65 when we moved up there was the worst drought on record up there. And in another year, we had about 2,000 acres of wheat looking prime, and the frost killed a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that was when I started to think there's a better way to make a quid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly is. Or you could be a farmer in Moree, where you can't seem to fail up there, can you?
Yeah, well, that's very prosperous. Yeah, my brother's done very well. It always comes back.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about those early days? Like, did you meet any heroes early on? Because I mean, everyone in country music has kind of got a story about meeting either, meeting Slim, because Slim had a few renaissance moments in his career.
Oh, he's a bit older than me, mate. So
yeah. I was saying, you might have timed well with one of his comebacks.
Yeah, I think Slim saw me as a competition. Actually, he came to that whole showgrounds thing where you didn't want your tent close to the other bloke's tent, But I did meet some American stars. I met Roger Miller. I met Tom T. Hall, and I actually supported Johnny Cash.
Whoa.
when he came.
Was that Stanthorpe? Was the Johnny Cash show he had here?
No, I was down in Tassie. I did the 2 casinos there with him.
Right.
Yeah, and he's a big bloke. He used to have heels on him were about 4 inches. So it was like Darth Vader. He wore a big black coat, and he didn't say much,
No.
But Tommy Hall was good. I went on a little cruise around the harbour with Tommy Hall, and I sang All Australian Boys Need a Shed to him, and he was gobsmacked. He'd never heard anyone sing a country song without an American accent.
Yeah, right.
And it blew him away.
You kind of started that, I guess. As you said before, there was a lot of novelty in Australian music, with you, particularly country music, and all the rest was singing like Americans. And I guess you kind of brought, an authenticity to Australian country music, to the mainstream anyway, where you could sing in the voice you actually talk in.
Yeah, Aussies couldn't say love when they said love in a song. They'd have to say love. I think I might have been the first one to say love on a record.
Yeah, right.
That's because Slim never sang a love song that I remember anyway.
Yeah.
But he and Rolf Harris had the accent. But Chad Morgan's my hero. He's still around. Chad Morgan was, I think, the reason he sang crazy songs because no one would take him seriously anyway.
Yeah, he's still around. Kimpy Mustard, not even 10 years ago, he was headlining there.
He could write a serious song, but he had a comedy look about him, and he played on that. Yeah.
Did you find any hot spots around Australia where you kind of, where you didn't expect to see country music fans? Because you often find that in places like Logan, particularly urban areas, Eaton's Hill, like North Brisbane and South Brisbane as well. And I know Rudy Hill in Western Sydney, they just love their country music.
Yeah. But mind you, I think my music is more folk than country, even though I've hung my hat on the country music. They've pigeonholed me there.
Yeah.
My songs, to be quite honest, work with anyone that likes to hear about Australia. It's that they don't have to be into country music necessarily, In fact, I think the really hardcore country music fans aren't as big a fans of mine as some of the other people, because I'm not into the American thing. But I pay tribute to the real Aussie style country music. On this box set, there's a new one called Those 50 Years, and I've actually recorded in that real slim, traditional Aussie style. So there's definitely a market for it still.
Yeah.
Did you do much touring overseas? Did you New Zealand?
I went, New Zealand. I did a couple of times. I did America once, and I did England twice, and Ireland once. But after I'd done them, I thought, that's not really me. Being,
So you've been all over the country then. So you've obviously toured it top to bottom. Where was a place that really took you back? I mean, I know there's been a few times when, like, the last time I crossed the Nullarbor, I popped into Esperance, and I was like, geez, this is a pretty nice corner of the world.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere you've been that's really kind of blown you away?
Yeah, I think the Pilbara blew me away more than anything else. It's all those big red hills with covered in spinifex and white snappy gums. And in fact, it almost turned me into a landscape painter. I loved it that much. I ended up painting quite a lot of landscapes from the Pilbara. And that's like really isolated and really quiet. You wouldn't live there, but to go through it, it's like being on Mars, being on a different world. And same with around Broome up there in the Kimberley. That's like another country.
Yeah, it is.
More like being in South Africa or in Africa,
Do you ever get that with your music? Do you ever pull up into a place and say, I have to write a song about here? I mean, you've written about a lot of parts of Australia. Personal favourite of mine takes me back to my early days. Chasing Pigs is obviously Gundy Pork.
Gundy Pork, yeah. I do write about the truth. I think that's why it works, and I've been on the land, so all that stuff's truthful. But obviously I was inspired by Uluru, and all that area out the centre. And I got to know Warren Williams, and he took me around a lot of the places. I think the Red Centre is probably the most amazing area, But I'm into the tropics. Where I live in southeast Queensland is subtropical country. Love that.
Yeah.
I've written old songs about that area too.
You've said before, True Blue obviously is a song that took off teared away from anyone else in making music at that time. And of course, of your catalogue, you don't think that's your best song you've written, but that just happens sometimes where the audience grabs onto a song. You didn't have any expectations for that one?
No, I didn't write it as a try to be a hit. I wrote it for a project for John Singleton, who had a TV show called True Blue Aussies.
Right.
Yeah. He had 3 years off from his business, and he went into filming True Blue Aussies. So he went out on the road with people like Budgy, Williamson, and he wanted a theme, and he just rang me up and said, "What I'm trying to It's about all I got." So the song was sort of asking the question, what is true? Is it me and you? Is it mum and dad? What is it, Then they used it for the Buy Australian campaign, and that gave it huge exposure. Yeah. And with all sorts of wonderful Aussie pictures to go with it, it was like I had this $1 million film clip presented on every channel. So I was very lucky there. But I don't think it's necessarily my best song, but it's used for celebration and also for funerals, for the cricket team and for Wallabies, everything. Who would have thought? So I can't beat it. It's my calling card.
So that's what that gets yelled at you during a gig when they feel like you're not going to play it at the end of the set.
Yeah, bloody halfway through the first half, and they so just hang on.
Yeah, they're Eaton's Hill.
Give me with the last two. My biggest hits, I suppose. But I'm getting a bit of Gundy Pork from the audience too.
Yeah. Yeah, all the shooters.
All the hoons up the back.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about Tamworth? You kind of saw that machine become a thing, the Country Music Festival. That would have been during your heyday when Tamworth started really kind of the festival itself hitting its straps. Did you have any idea that would turn out to what it was?
Yeah, I think it was going to work. I mean, it was based on the whole Nashville idea that John Minson kicked it off. And Tamworth was a bit of a country music centre already because of the John Minson's Hoedown radio program. And I remember coming through after Old Man Emu was released. I came through from Cropper Creek and met the Emanuel brothers, and it was a bit of a country centre already. So I didn't go to the first awards. In fact, I thought all it was going to do was make everybody stab each other in the back for not, because you reckon you should have got the award kind of thing, but it did work. I became president of it for a while. I guess the reason I joined up, I just wanted to make sure we don't just become a satellite for American country music, and I think that was done a lot for that.
Yeah.
So we have our own sound, and as time goes on, we're getting more and more Aussie singing about us and sounding like us.
Yeah, I actually heard the other day from a source inside Rugby Australia that back when you used to sing, after the All Blacks would do their haka, that you aren't allowed to sing a song at a rugby game now if it's not a cultural song. But would you argue that Waltzing Matilda is a cultural song?
Oh, definitely.
For Australia?
Yeah, well, if it's a song that stirs the nation, that's all it needs, and that one did. And I did actually, it shocked the hell out of the All Blacks when I did sing it after the haka.
Yeah.
Actually, they were actually pissed off because they thought this is not right, because they had it their own way every time. But the Wallabies told me afterwards, and we won the Bledisloe Cup that day, first time I did it.
Yeah.
And then we, with the team, went overseas and won the World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first time that after a haka that they were on the front foot when all the Aussies sang Waltzing Matilda. And I remember doing a little a dinner or something at the grounds beforehand, and there were a lot of Kiwis in the audience, and they thought it was a bit of a joke because everyone knew I was going to do Old Man Emu. Waltzing Matilda after the haka. It was promoted and people were ready for it. And the Kiwi said, "Oh, we'll sing along, ha ha ha." They had no idea the impact that would have on the game, And when it came to the World Cup in Sydney, they wouldn't let me sing it after the haka. So the Kiwis won in the finish.
They didn't want to write a reply. That's what it was too, because that is an advantage the All Blacks have. It's like, anthems are sung, and then they do a incredibly intimidating war dance, and then it's kickoff.
And it's all been downhill since, that 2003 World Cup, how everyone's talking about the share market being as low as it's been for millions of years, what about the Wallabies?
Yeah, well, I think rugby hasn't looked after the grassroots. I think that's the main reason for that. And they didn't allow it to go to free television. That was the biggest mistake.
Yeah.
You lose fans if you can't watch it for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, and not getting someone to drill a hole into my house so that I can watch rugby union. Now, the Waltzing Matilda, you've obviously sung it a fair few times, but we spoke to the Honourable Bob Catter last time we were in Mount Isa. We had an interview with him.
That'd be interesting.
Oh, yeah, it was great. It goes for about 3 hours, and he interrupts himself constantly. So, but he is obsessed with the yarn, as a lot of people up that way are. They hold it close to their heart, out that way. Winton, Mount Isa.
Huge land song, yeah.
Yeah. And Bob reckons he knows the entire story. Bob reckons he knows the name of the cop that killed him.
I know the murderer. He was set up.
Yeah, John, you gotta come up hard on house and come for a protest.
This is first example of police brutalising people in Australia.
Yeah. No, Bob was out front of Parliament House today dressed as the Grim Reaper on behalf of the automotive industry.
Yeah. Holden to Aussie jobs. Yeah. Loves a pun, Bob, doesn't he?
Yes. What does he do anything for the country? I'm not sure, but he's fun.
He does a lot for his people up there in Northern Australia.
Yeah. Inland Rail.
Queensland.
So what would you say is your footy team? Because you're based in, you're obviously across both, all codes.
It's obviously
very clever.
Lions.
I've got my foot in all camps, mate. Even though I was born in Victoria, there's no rugby league down there, so I'm a Blues fan when it comes to Origin. Also a Broncos fan.
Yeah, right.
Very clever. And I've always been an Essendon fan because I've brought up on Aussie rules.
Yeah, right.
Always loved Essendon. So I've got it all covered, really.
Well, it's good the sport is back. I mean, I get the music can't be too far behind it if they're talking about getting fans in stadiums for the footy. No one knows the strategy from our end. We're outside of the tent, but I reckon live music isn't too far off.
Yeah, but I'm not too sure about having a cardboard audience.
Yeah. We did a story today. That's what the Victorian Labor Party basically looks like, an NRL crowd at the moment with their branch stacking.
That's it. I could just see going out there and signing all the cardboard. I'd take them home and stick them up on their wall. See, I had quite a lot of sold-out shows I had to cancel or postpone. I can't do them again until everyone can come. You can't.
Yeah.
300 can come and 300 can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can't do anything about it until we're able to sit next to each other again. I think that's the way it'll, especially for the ones I've already sold.
Yeah.
Like I do a shed show in my shed every year, and I had to postpone that. Well, there's only 1 or 4 people have wanted their money back, so it's all still happening next year.
Well, there's been a couple of musicians who've started to do their shows on Skype. Is that something that would interest you?
No, I wouldn't. I'm doing the odd silly thing, not performing. Like I promoted this box set by doing a couple of silly things, like taking the wheelbarrow to the mailbox and picking it up because I hadn't seen it before. And I took the wheelbarrow up to collect all the fan mail, but there was none there. Do silly things like that, and I'm going to go around the shed and probably tell the stories of all the stuff I got in the shed. So, but rather than perform, I find that a bit. Everyone's doing that. I think it's a bit weird.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
it's a bit of a Triple J idea, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's probably great for young artists that are trying to get somewhere, and it'll probably kick a lot of them off. So good luck to them.
Now, where you sit kind of in foot in both camps with your music between folk and country, have you ever been paired up with someone? I mean, you're well known for a songwriter, a balladeer, not necessarily the type of music associated with hardcore partying. Have you ever been paired up on tour with bands that kind of just clashed a little bit with that classic touring style you do? You're probably not trashing hotels.
I think I did one with a DJ, and that was over in West Australia, but the rain got rained out. But that was with the DJ, and that was completely opposite of what I was about. and everyone was under umbrellas, and eventually they had to cancel it because the power was a bit of a problem. We always know what's going on, so I don't want to be put in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I could be there with Paul Kelly or John Farnham or something like that, doesn't matter. But it's the really modern hip-hop or something that really fit.
Yeah.
I don't even know how you describe all the different music these days.
Yeah, it's all starting to tangent off in different angles and different styles.
Doesn't seem to be much melody in it.
No.
Yeah. It's poetry with music, isn't it? All of it. I'm thinking about the other, what's the rap or whatever.
Yeah. Gangster rap, drill rap. Do you keep an eye on the young fellas coming through with guitars?
No, not really. I did for a while when I was the president, but if I hear somebody that's genuinely Aussie and just sounding like, I mean, you two, for instance, back when I started, there wouldn't be voices like you on TV or radio. It was sort of a half British kind of accent, or they'd be putting on an American accent. So the whole thing's changed, and it's great to see the young ones coming through now. I've recorded recently with Elise Simmons. We recorded my song, Three Sons.
Yeah, right.
No, she sounds really good.
Who was the late night host? They just hired an American. Don Lane. Yeah.
Because, everyone thought Americans were better than we were, It's a bit annoying.
Nowadays, Aussies are getting jobs. Like the Adam Hills in England.
Yeah, who wants to live in fucking England? I mean...
You get no sun there.
No, it's just one big Gippsland, isn't it?
No, you're like me, like, not to get too serious, but you got to understand why a mob that have been taken off their land, 200 years ago, I know how that, if I had to live out of Australia somewhere and I wasn't allowed to go back, I think I would die.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to them,
And that was, and so you toured a lot with Warren H. Williams.
Yeah.
And were you as familiar with kind of Aboriginal Australia before kind of, working alongside him?
No.
You learn a lot.
Why, I welcomed it. He approached me to do a duet with the Raining on the Rock. I'd already had it on the Mallee Boy album, but he approached me he was doing duets with a lot of people. His manager suggested it out there at Alice, and Raining on the Rock just suited him down to the ground, of course. Mm-hmm. And that was the song that got the airplay, the duet. It was an ARIA award one year for the most airplay for country song, I think. And but I was invited out there to meet the real fellas out there, the real old people. They're cunning. Warren said, I want to take you out to see my uncle, and he's going to show you the stones that he's got, which have been handed down for thousands of years. And when I got out there, he was gone.
Yeah, right.
So I wasn't initiated, but I don't say no. He didn't say you can't come because you're not initiated. I had to get all the way in the middle of the desert before I found out he didn't want to talk to me. And Warren didn't tell me either. Oh, Uncle's gone.
Yeah, Warren was just he was just taking a punt.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, and they're lucky enough to still be on their land out there. The Arrernte, Western Arrernte.
You would have seen a lot of Murray Koori country music as well on the road. Did you ever notice? Did you ever think that there's just a whole scene here that's waiting? Because with Warren there was a lot of people of that era, black singer-songwriters, and further north you get Warumpi Band, and then of course Kev Carmody and that kind of stuff. Did you see the country music before everyone else heard it?
Oh, I saw a bit of it. I've been at some of their festivals and supported them. The thing is, what I've encouraged is to sing their own songs.
Yeah.
I've been doing for me. I kept telling Warren he should do language songs, and then up gets there's a Gulpilil. What was his name? Gurrumal. That's right. Sorry, Meg's in there. Help me. Gurrumal. Yeah, he got up. He was a world hit by singing, in his own language. And I always said to Warren, you should do that, and so they could send their stories around the world, because you soon work out what they're singing about. And we did do a song where we used a bit of the language.
Yeah.
I'm getting too old, guys.
Well, it's 50 years. It's JW
50 years on the road. Would you say that Australian country music is a lot more original than what you'd get in America because, you know, just for the past 10 years, you know, since Garth Brooks really came through in the early 90s, it's all been that, you know, homogenized crooning, like, I've lost my baby, you know, like things like that. I've noticed as an Australian country music fan that there's always someone different that's coming through, where in America it's just more of the same Nashville shit year in, year out.
I don't want to pat myself on the back too much, but things like Galleries, Pink Glass, Rain on the Rock, they're called country songs. Well, they're nothing like American music, are they?
Yeah.
No.
Bottle, they're nothing like American music, yet they're still called country. So, you know, maybe those sort of songs have opened it up a bit for the young ones that have been into what I do. And but even Slim stuff, I think, Rain Tumbles Down in July, they're very Australian, you know.
Mm. Even when you go up that way, they start saying July.
Yeah.
That's how authentic he was. He said July like an old ringer.
Diamantina Drover, which is probably regarded in the folk area, it's really an Australian country song, you know.
Yeah.
If it's about country, it's country.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's either that or it's an Italian country song. Either way.
Spaghetti Western. So that's 50 years, 50 albums, not all necessarily original albums, but 50 albums, JW50, coming out now. And that should get everyone warmed up for when we're allowed to do the live shows again, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, well,
next year.
An advantage for the top 20 artists in Australia because we won't be able to bring the Americans and the Palms out for a while, probably.
Yeah.
And so we might start headlining our own shows.
Yeah, that's it. Splendor in the Grass might have an Australian lineup, Blues Fest, all Aussies, Gympie. Yeah, that should be a good time for Australian music. It certainly will be for film because we'll be rolling cameras well before Hollywood.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, oh, well, they haven't looked after their virus over there.
No. Well, thank you for joining us today, John Williamson. It's been great to chat to you, and we're looking forward to you coming out of isolation with a vengeance.
Thank you, Clancy. And Earl, you took it pretty easy on me, I think.